this device right here single-handedly changed my perception of all-in-one PCs. My current perception was, what's even the point of these? It's like a weird middle ground between a laptop and a desktop, where this lacks the portability of a laptop and doesn't have the value or performance of a desktop. Why do you even bother with these? But that was before I even used one as my main machine. I was just assuming. But I did spend a couple of days using this one, and this impressed me in multiple ways that I didn't expect. Let's talk about that. The one I have here is from Asus. They make a couple of different models. This one is the 23 or actually 24-inch version, and it's powered by a Core i5 13th gen processor, 16GB RAM. It's a pretty nice 1080p display. It's not high resolution or anything, not high refresh rate, 100Hz. This isn't made for gaming or anything like that. I think you already know that. This is made for office use or for creative people, and that's actually one of the areas where this thing impressed me. Stay tuned, I'll talk about that. The stand that this comes included with is fine. It's okay to support this thing because it is pretty heavy. Remember, it's an all-in-one computer. Everything is built in there. So you can't mount this on a monitor arm or something like that. It has to go on a stand. So to increase its height, there is no height adjustment on this stand. So you'll have to buy one of those tabletop riser thingies, like a small table on top of your table. You know what I mean? I personally never liked those, but you'll have to get that one for this. It doesn't have any swivel either, it just has up and down tilt, and while I was adjusting this tilt, it made a cracking noise and a piece of it fell out. That was concerning, but thankfully nothing happened after that. You can see it's still pretty smooth and works. So we're just gonna assume that was an extra part. That's what you do. When something unexpected falls out of your device, you just throw it away and assume that was extra. Knowledge. Let's look at the I/O real quick. This thing has like one HDMI, 3 USB-A ports, all capable of 5 Gbps. There's another HDMI right in the middle of that cable management hole, which is pretty handy. They're both HDMI out ports because this thing is an all-in-one PC. It has its own input. And then there's power, Type-C, and Ethernet. So you're pretty much sorted for all the basic needs you may have. And there are a few more I/O ports down here for easy access up front, because it's not easy to reach the back ports all the time. The box even has a mouse and keyboard included, so it's like a full set, but it's a pretty like generic plasticky mouse and a membrane keyboard. I'm not going to be using that, but it's good enough, for a student or for a front desk type operation, it's fine. But if you're using this for hours every day, it's better to invest in higher quality I/O. And up top, you'll find these fan vents and an interesting section over here, which is a pop-out webcam. Well, I guess it's a pull-out rather than a pop-out. You have to pull it out yourself. Pause. But it is pretty smooth, and as you can see, it just goes away like that. This was the second aspect that impressed me, the performance of this thing. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. To evaluate its performance, I ran Cinebench just to see what that Core i5 can do, and yeah, this actually pumped out pretty good scores. It wasn't fast, it wasn't like a screaming fast performer, but it didn't really get too hot, or the fans didn't get crazy loud either. In the beginning, it was basically silent, but towards the end of the multi-core test, it was somewhat audible, but still nowhere near annoying. I mean, I'm used to the jet engine sound of my gaming laptop, so this was a pleasant change. Now, since this mostly will be used for like work from home type setups, this webcam will be important. It has microphones as well. So I took it through a video call simulation to see what it looks like and sounds like. And well, here's that test. But this is what it looks and sounds like if you use the built-in webcam and mic for video calls. I think it has some noise cancellation built in. So if I make some noise, like, I don't think you can hear that. That's pretty handy. So you don't have to worry about a lot of noise from your surroundings making into your meetings. You know what? Let's try this. This microphone's noise cancellation seems pretty good. So I'm going to play some loud traffic sounds and talk through it. Let's see if this thing can filter it out. So here we go. That is loud. I mean, I don't know if you can hear that. I'm speaking along with the noise. I don't know if this mic can filter it because it sounds like this in real life. It's pretty annoying to me. But this mic should be able to separate my voice, perhaps. Well, we'll see. I mean, this is helpful if you're in a noisy environment. The quality of the webcam itself is nothing amazing. Like, I had to darken my room because it can't handle brightness. It was just completely overexposing me, making me look like an alien. So you have to adjust the lighting in your room a little bit to make yourself look better. But anyway, it gets the job done, that's the point. Yeah, that microphone's noise cancellation is crazy good, isn't it? That genuinely impressed me. That is by far one of the best implementations of noise cancelling for human voice that I have heard, especially out of the box. There's zero setup. I didn't play with some software There's nothing going on. That's the beauty of all-in-ones. There is nothing to set up. Everything is ready to go. You just have to plug in one cable and of course your keyboard and mouse, but that's it. There's something about that convenience which appeals to a lot of people. You'll have a large display ready to go, which is obviously more spacious than a laptop and takes far less space on your desk than a desktop. Yeah, I see now. I see why it makes sense. It's not for everyone. It's not for gaming. Obviously, it doesn't have a dedicated GPU. But for a lot of tasks, this thing is more than capable. And that brings me to my usual workflow, which is 4K video editing. I wasn't expecting much at all from this, but this surprised me. I loaded on a 4K timeline full of 4K 50 FPS clips from my Sony camera. This thing handled them, like it played through them relatively smoothly. Now, scrubbing through the timeline wasn't anywhere near as smooth, and it couldn't handle full resolution playback, but at half resolution, this was way more than usable. This actually outperformed the Ultrabook that we tested out recently, so that was surprising. And that's where its multi-core performance comes into play, especially if you have a lot of effects and stabilization on your video clips, multi-core helps out. I even exported the video to see how long it would take. It did took around 10 minutes to export a 40-second 4K shot, which isn't exactly impressive but not at all bad. And yes, the fans did spin up and it got kind of warm, but not even close to what my laptop gets. So again, overall, this is impressive performance for this package. And all this for this price, are you kidding me? That's like 3 times more affordable than my laptop. I mean, if this thing had an RTX GPU built in, oh man, it's over. It's over for my laptop. Because this is great for those type of people who use a desk type setup, but they don't exactly want a large PC and they don't want to set up anything. They don't want like a bunch of cables running around. They want one single system with a large display, good performance, and that can basically do everything they need. Well, this is exactly that. One package, you get everything in the box. A giant monitor, webcam, mic, keyboard, mouse as well. You just plug it in and start using it. That's perfect for a lot of people. Yeah, I was wrong about all-in-ones. I'm glad I used one to see why they are a sensible option for some people. Now, I'm not going to switch from my laptop mainly because it has an RTX GPU and I do need it for some things. But this is a great setup. There is just one thing I don't like about this, just one, and that's the speaker quality. Not the loudness, but the quality of it. They get plenty loud, but they are a bit too bassy and muddy, like there's no clarity there. When I was editing audio, I noticed it immediately within 2 seconds because I know my audio sounds good. It shouldn't sound that muffled. That was a strange disappointment, I expected the speakers to be much nicer, full-bodied, but that's not true. I had to use like third-party software like FX Sound to bring up the voice a little bit. So if Asus could improve the clarity of these speakers, not the loudness, clarity, then yeah, this will be a great option. And I know I mentioned the build quality could be a bit better. That was mainly the stand and not the PC itself. So if there was a better stand available for this with height adjustment and everything, that would be nice. But that's pretty much the only thing I could think of to complain about this. Everything else is solid. Even the price of this is like half of my phone. Come on, man, there's nothing to complain. So if you are looking for a setup like this, if you are on the fence of buying an all-in-one, if you fall in the category that I mentioned, you want a stationary setup that does everything. You don't want to have any setup at all. No maintenance, no fiddling with software, no 100 cables running around, nothing. And you want it for like work from home setups. If you're a programmer, if you're a creative person, this is fantastic for that. It's low maintenance, doesn't cost much, works well. What else do you need? I'll leave a link to this in the description. It has some models as I mentioned. It goes up to 27 inches and Core i7, I believe. So you can consider that as well. Yeah, even that is more affordable than my phone. What is going on? Not gonna lie, Asus, you cooked with this one. If you improve the speakers, I am sold.